Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Air pollution is becoming an ever bigger threat to our health, and vehicle emissions are part of the problem. Just today, air quality alerts have been issued at bus stops, tube stations and roadsides across London. Now, health experts in England say local authorities should consider new speed limits, clean air zones and even redesign speed humps to change the way we drive. Our health correspondent Dominic Hughes is in Leeds for us. Dominic.
Yes, good evening, George. And rush hour here in Leeds is in full swing. Now, as anyone who lives in this city or commutes in and out of it for work will tell you, the traffic here at times can be an absolute nightmare. But what perhaps they don't realise is the effect that traffic and the pollution it causes is having on our health. Air pollution is claiming lives. Tiny specks of soot from exhaust fumes, brake linings, even tyres are linked to cancer, breathing difficulties and heart disease. Like many big cities, Leeds struggles with traffic problems and pollution, and the cost in lives blighted by ill health is serious.
It's not something that we can ignore and hope it'll disappear, because it won't, and it's only by taking positive action that we can do something about it.
So I've taken a short road trip across the city to look at some of the issues and the possible solutions. Part of the problem with traffic pollution isn't just moving traffic, it's when cars stop and start. And speed bumps can be a particular issue because cars slow down when they approach them, and then once you've gone over them, they tend to speed up and then they slow down for the next one, and all of that pumps more pollution into the atmosphere. But speed bumps also save lives through reducing traffic accidents, so it's a tricky balance. Some of today's other recommendations from NICE include more 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in congested residential areas, more charging points for electric cars, and restrictions on engine idling during short stops, such as outside hospitals or schools. The traffic outside Roundhay School at home time is notorious, but parents feel they have little choice but to drive to pick up their kids.
Because we live a bit far away, so it's a bit hard for us to do that. But I'd rather go for electric cars if they were quite cheap, to be honest with you.
There's too many cars. I mean, on that Roundhay Road now is an absolute joke at tea time.
I'm quite chesty at the moment. I'm feeling wheezy.
But for asthma sufferers like Ruth Smith, the human cost of air pollution can change lives.
If I'm stationary in traffic, again, have to keep the windows up, because obviously the pollution from other cars, obviously work being done on the side of the road, anything like that can set me off.
Today's recommendations say we need to think more carefully about how we plan our roads and how we use them. Well, that's the situation here in Leeds, but this afternoon in London at about 4:30 in the afternoon, as you were saying in the introduction, George, the Mayor of London issued air pollution warnings across the capital. So warnings for the very first time issued for bus stops, for tube stations and at the roadside. So anyone feeling discomfort in the eyes or a tight chest has been told to be aware of their activity levels, particularly if they're outside. So clearly concern about pollution levels right across the country.
All right, Dominic, thanks very much. Thank you.
Now, air quality alerts have been issued at bus stops, tube stations and roadsides across London because of high pollution. The move comes as a new report calls for changes to motoring rules and infrastructure to help reduce vehicle emissions and improve health. Fewer speed bumps, turning off car engines when waiting outside schools, and designing new roads in ways that keep pollution to a minimum are all included. But critics say the problem is not how we drive, but what we drive, and the new guidance won't do much about that. Our science editor Tom Clark reports.
13-year-old Philip Webb is on another day off school because of his asthma. It's so severe he's missing several days of school a month, not to mention playing real football with his real friends.
Do you feel it when there's bad pollution on the street? Can you feel it affecting your asthma?
Yeah, I can, because it just depends on the day. Like, I can walk down the street normally, be completely fine, but if there's a lot of cars, say like it's rush hour, I'll start to wheeze and I'll start to cough.
How does it feel to have that in your chest and your breathing?
Say like you've ever been punched in the chest, it feels like that constantly. you struggle for breath. It's like someone's also just wrapping a rope around your chest and pulling tighter and tighter.
Philip is taking part in a research project to see how much air pollution he's breathing as he walks to and from his school in East London.
So you carry with you wherever you go for 24 hours.
The pollution monitor he's carrying is linked to a smartphone that maps the bad air along his route.
The routes I would usually do is this way up towards my school, going up this road here. I did try to do this road round here and up like that, but as you can see they all have red lines, meaning really high pollution.
Today's draft guidance from the National Institute for Care Excellence, or NICE, are an attempt to help people like Philip and millions of others most vulnerable to air pollution. It focuses on what local authorities can do to put air pollution at the heart of planning decisions, including big things like ensuring new roads don't force pollution on homes or pedestrians, and smaller ones like having no idling zones where engines must be switched off for school drop-off or deliveries. Even replacing speed bumps with other speed restricting schemes that don't encourage unnecessary braking and accelerating. Smoother driving to reduce pollution won't be a hard sell, but tougher measures like congestion charging, now being looked at by many towns, are unlikely to go down quite so well.
I'm not sure that they will be unpopular with all drivers. I think most people are concerned about health, and the reality is that nitrogen dioxide is a toxic killer. It's known as the invisible killer. We know that around 25,000 people a year die where nitrogen dioxide is an attributable cause of those deaths. So it's about protecting the long-term health of our population. Ultimately, as elected politicians, we represent the views of our residents. So if our residents are saying there's something that needs to be done, then I'm sure people will listen and take notice.
Local authorities may be able to influence where and how we drive, but they can't change what we drive. And according to clean air campaigners and medical professionals, these guidelines represent a big missed opportunity because they fail to address air pollution at source. That's the lorries, the cars, the taxis and the buses that produce diesel pollution in the first place.
This is just tinkering around the edges. These are unlikely to make any major changes of exposure of the most vulnerable populations, such as children and old people. And what we need to really do is to reduce emissions from all roads, and that requires a national policy, not small local interventions.
Critics point out the current absence of any scheme that helps individuals and businesses to give up their most polluting diesel vehicles. So for now, people like Philip will have to rely on whatever small steps councils can take to manage the pollution and the ill health it causes.